The Miracle Doctor Won't Be a Kept Man. Chapter 121. Kiran answered the call. What's the matter? Kiran, you bastard, I hate you so much. You better come to my office right now. I want to file for divorce. Bam. Snow hung up immediately after she was done. Kiran glanced at the Xander Corporation building. It's not even that time of the month yet. Why is she so fussy? Kiran drove Serena's car to the office gate. The company's security looked at Kiran's car in shock. They could not believe that he was driving Director Zimmerman's car. Kiran was really something else. The thought of Serena's voluptuous body got the security guards all worked up. When Kiran got out of the car, he entered the building and went straight to Snow's office. Snow originally had a lot of documents to deal with today, but she was not in the mood anymore. The flirtatious conversation between Kiran and Rain just now was too distracting. Just a few minutes earlier, she had received a call from the Transportation Bureau that her car was in an accident and it had turned into scrap, so they asked her to take care of it. When she asked for the location, they said it happened at Bayville University. Snow pieced everything together. Kiran must have left the company early to meet Rain at Bayville University, and while they were being all lovey-dovey in the car, they got into an accident and wrecked her car. That was not the important part. The important part was that they were in her house. How could they sneak into her house? Did they really think they could mess with her so easily? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got, and the more she analyzed, the more annoyed she got. Jerk! Fucking in the car was bad enough, but did you really have to do it in my house? I'm going to cut off your dick, Snow blurted out. Wow, I didn't think you were so bold. Kiran's teasing voice sounded as the door swung open. Snow jumped up from her seat as if she sat on a spring, and she rushed toward Kiran after tossing the documents at him. Kiran causally caught the documents and reached out to hug Snow as she ran toward him. Is this what a tigress is like? Tigress? The thought of Kiran hooking up with Rain and then coming here to call her a tigress made her even angrier, so she opened her mouth to bite him. Her senses were assaulted by the scent of another woman's perfume. She did not know who it belonged to, but it added fuel to the fire. Kiran was still smiling. Then, he gently held Snow away so she could not bite him. Snow grew even more impatient, so she lifted her foot and stomped hard on Kiran's foot. Kiran saw the 3-inch-tall stiletto heel and thought that it would probably pierce his foot if she stepped on him, so he quickly moved his feet away out of fear. As a result, Snow was doomed. Crack! The heel of her shoe broke, and she lost her balance, hugging Kiran tightly. I thought you were going to divorce me. Why are you hugging me? Kiran asked cheekily. Hugging him? So, it was okay for him to hug her instead? Snow's expression was as dark as a cloud in the storm, but she managed to calm down and stare at Kiran. Chirk, I'm divorcing you, and I demand $10 billion for compensation and moral damages. Kiran was so shocked that he quickly let go of Snow. Are you crazy? Are you made of gold? I've only hugged and kissed you previously. We've never even slept together, yet you're asking me for $10 billion in damages? Snow thought of the recording of Kiran and Rain, and her heart felt like it was on fire. It was all Kiran's fault, yet he blamed her. Is $10 billion too little? Make it $100 billion, then. Chapter 122. Is your skin made of gold? Kiran asked in frustration. This is your punishment for cheating, Snow said calmly when she saw Kiran get mad. Cheating? Who cheated? Kiran looked confused. Was my car ruined at Bayville University? Snow asked coldly. Yes, I had to save Rain, so I hit a van, Kiran said truthfully. Save Rain? Yes. What did you do after saving Rain? Snow scoffed. What do you mean? Kiran sensed something wrong with her tone. What? You're too afraid to admit, aren't you? Snow asked coldly. What's there to admit? I went to Bayville Hotel. Kiran was irritated now. Never in her dreams would she have imagined that he even went to Bayville Hotel. Her lungs were about to combust. He really was a jerk. Was booking a hotel room not enough? Did he have to go to her house too? Her dignity had completely shattered and she was furious. You will pay me $100 billion and then divorce me. Snow turned around and sat back in her seat, seemingly calm now. Kiran was feeling impulsive too. Did she not say she wanted a divorce? What was she doing? Hey, what's wrong with you? You're giving me a headache. Did being in bed so much give you a headache? Snow mocked him angrily. Kiran could hear the misunderstanding and deep jealousy in her voice. Are you suspecting me of something? Suspecting you. Why do I need to be suspicious when they're facts? Snow said coldly. I don't know what nonsense you're spitting, but if you want a divorce, go ahead. If not, I have more important things to do. Kiran was dying to know about the secret records of Dragon's Mount and the York family's enemies. He did not want to be bothered by these trivial matters. I'll divorce you once you give me 100 billion. Snow stretched out her dainty little hand and looked at Kiran, forcing an answer out of him. Kiran was frustrated. Where would he get 100 billion? So he turned to leave. Snow was furious. Kiran, how dare you act like I did something wrong when you slept with Rain at the hotel in my home? Snow brazenly turned on her phone and played the voice message Serena sent. When Kiran heard the conversation, his face instantly dropped. He finally understood, but his realization soon turned into rage. It was Serena's fault. Call Serena and have her come here. I need to talk to her. Are you trying to play the victim? Snow sneered. Is Kiran back? How's my car? Serena walked in while giggling happily. Anger flooded Kiran's mind when he saw Serena. Did you send Snow the message? Yes, Serena admitted frankly. I was treating Rain while you were in the bathroom. Did you not know what was going on? Kiran asked angrily. Of course I did, Serena responded. Yet, you do this? Kiran was going crazy. A small misunderstanding between husband and wife will only bring them closer together. I'm doing this for your own good. Serena looked innocent, waiting for them to thank her. Both Kiran and Snow were dumbstruck. Look at you two. Even if it's a fake marriage, you're not affectionate at all. Serena looked at Snow before continuing. Look at you. Aren't you angry because you're starting to develop feelings for Kiran? Then she looked at Kiran. You keep saying you want a divorce, but you're still so protective over Snow. That just shows that you two are getting closer. A misunderstanding is the best experiment. Serena said confidently. She thought she was helping them. Kiran and Snow were utterly speechless, but they were also flooded with anger. They must get divorced. Chapter 123. Kiran, let's go get divorced. Snow stood up to leave. Fine. Kiran did not want to back down, so he stood up as well. I'll be your driver, said Serena with her captivating smile. There was nothing Kiran could do about her. Why did she always have to see the worst in people? They were finally getting a divorce, which had always been his goal. The three of them went downstairs, and Serena drove them to the west of Bayville. Kiran frowned. You're going in the wrong direction. Snow noticed it too. Serena, this is the way to Dragon's Mount, not the city hall. The corners of Serena's lips curved upward. I'm taking you for a ride to blow off steam. Then you can go get a divorce. Besides, the new marriage laws stipulate a cooling-off period for divorces. Snow sat in the passenger seat grouchily after being reminded of the regulations. So, she looked out of the window beside her while her mind was in chaos. Kiran looked in the direction of Dragon's Mount with mixed feelings as he was constantly reminded of the secret records of Dragon's Mount. He wanted to know what the real story behind it was. Half an hour later, Serena parked the car at the foot of Dragon's Mount. She got out of the car and looked at Dragon's Mount with a smile. What a nice mountain! Just as Kiran was about to say something, Serena looked at him. Which do you think is more beautiful, Dragon's Mount's curves or Snow's curves? Kiran was left speechless. Snow was momentarily stunned as her face went red. Serena, what nonsense are you talking about? Serena kept up her charming smile and looked at Snow. Snow, it's been years since you've seen your parents, right? Snow's face fell. The clue I got last time was a waste of time. My grandfather almost died on the train on the way back. He fell sick on the train? Kiran asked. Snow nodded. They were perfectly capable of driving themselves or getting on a plane, so when Kiran pieced everything together, it finally made sense to him. Serena looked at Kiran. Why don't you ask Snow why she hasn't seen her parents for so long? Kiran was left speechless again, so he looked at Snow for an answer. Snow was teary-eyed, and she held back her tears as she said, My parents disappeared all of a sudden 15 years ago, and they still haven't been found. I don't know if they're still alive. In the end, she covered her face and squatted on the ground like a damsel in distress. She started sobbing, and the cold and distant CEO was gone. Kiran felt like he had just been stabbed in the heart. Did they go missing because of the York family? Serena looked at Kiran. Do you now understand why they disappeared? Kiran looked at Dragon's Mount and asked, Is it because of my family? It's good that you know. Serena's expression sank for a split second. The Xander family had been like a pillar holding up Bayville for the past 20 years. Do you think that it was easy? They've been through so much. Snow's parents even got kidnapped and went missing, yet you still say you want a divorce? Can you even call yourself a man? Kiran was at a loss for words. Snow immediately stood up in shock in the middle of crying and asked Serena, What did you just say? My parents went missing because of the York family? Serena nodded. That's right, it's all because of the York family. Think about it. Except for the 3 major families, who else would dare lay a finger on the Xanders? The 3 major families hated the York family. Snow felt like she was struck by lightning. Her fragile body trembled. Her vision went black, and she fainted. Kiran quickly reached out to hold her, and he shouted, Snow! Then Snow slowly opened her eyes and saw Kiran holding her. Annoyed, she pushed him away forcefully. Divorce! Let's get divorced now. Chapter 124. Filled with hatred for the York family after discovering that her parents had gone missing because of them, she became even more determined to get a divorce. On the other hand, Kiran was on the fence about it. Now, it was no longer a matter of getting a divorce. The York family owed the Xander family too much, and he could not possibly pay them back. Snow, you're a fool, Serena said. Why am I a fool? Snow asked while wiping away her tears. If I were you, not only would I not get divorced, but I would ask Kiran to help you get your parents back. Plus, I would force him to practice chastity, torture him, and make his life miserable for making you long your parents for the past 15 years, said Serena as her smile turned crafty. When Snow heard that, her expression sank. She said firmly, I don't need his pity or help. Serena looked at Kiran without saying anything so that he could solve it himself. Kiran was too ashamed of wanting a divorce now anyway. Snow's picture of the ugly woman could not compare to everything the Xander family had done for the York family. It was like a small drop in the ocean. What was so significant about a picture anyway? Plus, if he got divorced now, Snow would be humiliated and defeated. Not only that, but she would be sad, and she was already sad enough. Kiran shook his head. I don't want a divorce. How do you call yourself a man? You were the one who kept saying you wanted a divorce, and now you say you don't want a divorce anymore, Snow asked angrily. That was the past. This is the present, Kiran said shamelessly. You're not a man, Snow provoked him on purpose. Kiran shrugged. I don't care what you say. You've seen it before, so I'm sure you know whether I'm a man or not. You bastard. Snow was about to go insane. I don't know. Why don't you show me? Serena joked out of nowhere. Kiran glared at her in disgust. Go away! Tesk. What a heartless man. Good thing I've never slept with a man like you. I bet you're the kind of man who leaves right after sleeping with someone. Saying that was not enough for Serena. She added, You reap what you sow. You'll suffer for what you did to your wife. I won't give him another chance. I must divorce him, Snow said assertively with a solemn look on her face. She married Kiran because her grandfather threatened her with his life, and he was her only family, so she had to obey his wishes. However, things were different now. Her parents had been missing for 15 years because of the York family. This hatred could never be extinguished. She could never be with him. However, the Xander family was in a crisis, so they needed Kiran's help to save them. At the same time, he was obliged to find Snow's parents, so he could not get divorced before that. Tesk. You reap what you sow. Serena laughed and walked toward the car as if she just heard a joke. Kiran stared at her back, thinking that this woman was becoming more and more mysterious. She must know many secrets. However, he could not question her now lest Snow became even more upset. Snow fiercely glared at Kiran and got into the car. Then, she asked Serena to leave Kiran there and head back. She knew that there was nothing she could do if Kiran refused to divorce her now. Kiran looked at Dragon's Mount and realized that the stories of the York family had many hidden secrets. He wanted to go up there and find out, but he decided not to act on impulse. Instead, he decided to wait for the right opportunity, so he slowly walked down the mountain out of frustration. Half an hour later, Serena drove back and met him halfway. Chapter 125. Kiran opened the door and got in the car. However, Serena did not start the car. Instead, she smiled at him. "You sure know a lot," Kiran said. "Not a lot. There are some things I don't know," Serena chuckled. "What don't you know?" Kiran asked. "Well, I bet you don't last long in bed, so why don't we test that theory?" Serena winked at Kiran. Any other man would already be on their knees by now. Serena was so bewitching, it was like Aphrodite had been reborn. Kiran was like an iceberg. "I know you have learned the art of seduction, yet I didn't succeed in seducing you. I'm a failure," Serena sounded dejected. "Tell me everything you know," said Kiran. "Why don't you tell me if you last long in bed?" Serena retorted. Kiran frowned. "Are you mad? Why don't we talk about your attitude first? You're as cold as ice, and you're acting like I owe you something when you're the one asking me for something." Serena gave him an attitude for the first time. "If you don't want to tell me, fine." Kiran opened the door and got out of the car. Serena did not back down. With a smug smile on her face, she started the car and slowly followed behind as he walked. Not only that, but she turned the radio up like she was annoying him on purpose. "I'll find out myself," Kiran said coldly. 9 o'clock at the Schuyler Library, be there or be square." Serena's villainous tone returned. Kiran did not reply, but he turned his head and quickened his pace. The smile on Serena's face grew wider. "You'll be mine sooner or later, little man." Kiran did not know what Serena meant by that. When he got back to the city, he immediately got a cab to see Harold. When he got to Harold's place, he saw that he was on the second-floor balcony. Upon seeing Kiran, Harold smiled and waved at him as if he had been expecting his arrival. When Kiran went upstairs, Harold ordered everyone to leave, leaving only the two of them. "You came earlier than I expected. It seems like you have some news." "That's great." Harold looked at Kiran with admiration. "Do you know why the York family was destroyed?" Kiran stared at Harold. "The things I know are about the same as Onyx and Margaret," said Harold as he calmed himself down. Kiran was a little disappointed with his response, so he asked again, "Did Snow's parents go missing because of the York family?" Harold hesitated for a split second before saying, "Yes, they wanted Dragon's Mount, but I didn't give it to them, so they went missing 15 years ago. I've been keeping it from Snow ever since until my health worsened 3 years ago. You never came down from the mountain, so I told her. She had gone through so much as a child." Kiran felt like his chest had been stuffed with cotton balls. Snow had a rough life like him, and she never experienced a mother's love too. He felt sorry for her. "I know that you won't divorce Snow, and I'm sure that she'll be moved by your actions. You must take good care of her in the future and don't let her get hurt again, okay?" Harold looked at Kiran as he pleaded. "Are there any secrets in Schuyler Library?" Kiran asked without responding to Harold's words. "Go find out yourself. I want to see your judgment. My purpose is to steer you in the right direction, not tell you the answers. If I told you, your training would be over, and you wouldn't be able to deal with your enemies." Harold refused to tell him. Chapter 126. Kiran could not understand what he was thinking. If he did not have a definite reason, he probably would not have trusted this old man. "What's the background of that woman, Serena? Why did you allow her in the company?" Kiran assumed Harold must know. "Don't you know that she lives below Snow?" Harold asked with a smile. Kiran was shocked. He had no idea. However, it seemed like there was a lot Harold was not telling him. Most importantly, he trusted Serena. "Is she pursuing you?" Harold asked, smiling. "She's not a proper lady," said Kiran, annoyed. "She's a virgin in her 20s. How does that make her not proper?" Harold's smile grew wider. Kiran was speechless after all his questions. He came to see Harold himself, but not only did he not get any useful information, he was left with more questions. Saving Mr. Simmons and wanting to win the hearts of the people in Bayville is the right thing to do. You need supporters when the York family rises up again. Back then, if it weren't for the York family, I wouldn't be where I am today, and neither would the Xander family. So, let's stay good friends for a long time." Harold stood up and looked downstairs. Kiran was silent. "Kiran, it's not that I don't want to tell you or help you, but there are many things you need to experience firsthand. You need to see it yourself to find out the truth, and I don't want to cloud your judgment." Harold was serious. Kiran nodded. "I understand. I'll make sure the 3 major families die a miserable death." Harold said gladly, I'm looking forward to that day so that I can finally face the master. Harold's eyes were a little teary, and his heart palpitations were getting irregular. Kiran felt the same excitement too. He nodded to Harold. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Harold shook his head. You're not doing it for me, but you're doing it to not let down the ghost of your ancestors. It's been 20 years since they've become wandering souls, but there's nothing I can do to help them. His wrinkled face went pale, and tears rolled down his cheek. Kiran took a deep breath. I'll get going then. Before leaving, he looked around and asked, Do you need more protection around here? Harold shook his head. That won't be necessary. I'm not afraid of death, and I've already given up hope that Snow's parents are alive. Just protect Snow and make her happy. Kiran's heart was heavy. It was a pity that he was all alone and lacking helpers. Harold noticed something bothering Kiran. They don't want to kill me. They would have done so long ago if they did. Why? Kiran blurted out, but regretted it afterward as he realized that it was a useless question. Harold responded to him with silence. Kiran finally bid farewell to Harold and left. Although his trip to Xander's residence was in vain, he knew that the York family had many enemies in Bayville, and things were very complicated. Otherwise, Harold would not have kept it a secret to not cloud his judgment. Harold was right. She might seem like a villain, but she had a good heart. At least her method of persuading them not to get a divorce was unique. He still could not understand her, but he was excited to see her. He went straight to Bayville University to wait until evening to see Serena, as he did not want to anger Snow more by showing up in front of her. At 9 o'clock, Kiran saw a dark figure entering Schuyler Library at Bayville University. Chapter 127. Kiran followed the shadow in as if he was being dragged by a leash. The shadow in front of him seemed to know Schuyler Library well as she entered the library quickly and effortlessly. She entered through the window and went up a flight of stairs with footsteps as light as a feather. From the silhouette, Kiran was certain that it was Serena, so he followed closely behind all the way to the 7th floor of Schuyler Library. Kiran had carefully examined Schuyler Library before. It was a 7-floor library, but the 7th floor was never open during the day. Kiran did not understand what they were doing here. As soon as they got to the 7th floor, the black shadow smoothly opened the lock and went in. Kiran was a little caught off guard. It was like she worked here. Nonetheless, he followed her in. Serena, can we talk now? He asked out loud, but no one replied. Kiran paused for a moment before walking toward the northeast corner. He could feel someone there. However, when he got there, it was completely deserted. Nobody was there. Kiran was about to go look for her until he felt a black shadow fall above his head. Kiran immediately dodged it. The black shadow missed him, but she moved agilely halfway in the air, twisting and spinning her body before wrapping around Kiran like a snake. Kiran could not understand what the hell this woman was doing. He did not block the attack. Instead, he gripped her arm and looked at her face. It was the face of a skull. It was the dead of night, and it was pitch black everywhere. Kiran might be brave, but even he could not help being startled. He was about to scream, but the woman immediately covered his mouth with her hand. Then she started to giggle. It was Serena, after all. Kiran was so mad that he was almost going to cough up blood. He was pretty sure that Serena had traumatized him. Kiran, I didn't think that you were so judgmental of other people's looks. Serena leaned into Kiran as she spoke. Kiran wanted to push her away, but she came closer. Don't do that, Kiran. You have already shown up for our date, and it's so dark and scary here. Aren't you going to hug me in case I get scared? If it were other men, Serena's coquettish voice would have not only made them turn feral, but they might even have surrendered themselves to her by now. This woman's charm would easily drive men crazy. On the contrary, Kiran was cursing her out in his mind. What the fuck do you mean scared? If you're so scared, why the fuck are you dressed up as a skull? She almost scared him to death. This empty space feels like it was prepared specially for us. I want to be with you. So don't reject me or push me away, okay? Serena said directly, seeing as he did not respond. A heady perfume, a tempting voice, a soft and delicate body. Even Kiran was using all his might to resist Serena's temptation. Just as Kiran was about to reject her, Serena stood up straight, and her expression became neutral. You're a good man, Kiran. It seems like Snow is a very lucky woman. Kiran was stunned. He did not think that this woman would test him. Let's just get down to business. Actually, the business I wanted to discuss with you was sex, but you turned me down. Serena giggled again. Kiran was getting impatient. Kiran, why don't we make a deal? Serena was smart. She sensed that Kiran was about to go crazy, so she said something to ease the tension between them. Say it. Kiran did not have time for nonsense. Promise me that I'll be your backup when you're no longer together with Snow, and I'll tell you what I know. Serena grabbed Kiran's arm as she implored him. Women could be extremely fickle sometimes, and Serena was no exception. Kiran was at a loss for words. She was totally evil. Serena, I've never thought about having a family or even a woman. Right now, the only thing that's important to me is my family's business. I know. I'm just talking about the future, not now. Serena pretended to be sweet again. Fine deal. Kiran did not want to waste any more time. Serena let out a ringing laughter. I look forward to being together with you, Kiran. When the time comes, I'll let you know if I'm actually an Aphrodite. Kiran closed his eyes resignedly. He must admit that this woman did have the potential to be an Aphrodite. I won't mess with you anymore. Since you've promised me I'm your woman now, so I have no choice but to care for you. Let's talk business. Serena instantly changed her tone and became a completely different person. Although Kiran wanted to say that she was not his woman, he kept quiet and looked at Serena, waiting for her to continue. Then Serena glanced around the library and said, The York family funded this library. I know. This entire floor is filled with the secret records of Dragon's Mount, Serena added. What did you say? Kiran was stunned. When he came in, all his attention was on Serena, so he had not looked at the books. He immediately looked around him, and although it was dark, the moonlight was enough for him to make out some of the titles. They were all indeed the secret records of Dragon's Mount. Kiran was dumbstruck. I'm not sure if you know that there are 8 editions of the secret records of Dragon's Mount, Serena said to Kiran. Kiran shook his head, pretending not to know as he did not wish to bring up Zenith. Serena did not think much about it. I don't know the specifics of each edition, but when I came here, someone told me to focus on the books with the number 7, so I poisoned all books containing that number to control who accessed those books. After a pause, she continued, The York family donated to this library, filled the 7th floor with the secret records of Dragon's Mount, and even developed Dragon's Mount. All the work they did was unimaginable, yet your family was wiped out because of that. It's a puzzling mystery. Serena's tone shifted slightly in the darkness. Back then, your family had a fortune worth tens of billions, and hidden masters protected them. Even so, they were easily exterminated. The enemy is not only physically powerful, but economically as well. Kiran silently listened to her. He no longer wanted to ruminate on these things because these were obvious facts. He wanted something useful. If Harold would not say anything, he was hoping he could get it from Serena. Serena looked at Kiran and asked gently, Are you not afraid that I'll betray you and lead you astray? Kiran was worried that Serena might go crazy again. Can we just talk about what's important? You're not the romantic type at all. Can't you see that I'm shivering in fear? Serena leaned toward Kiran. Kiran was taken aback as the warmth and flirtatiousness from just now were gone. Her skin was icy cold. So, he held Serena in his arms. You can say it now! Serena hugged Kiran hard as she cried into his chest. Kiran was shocked to see Serena crying. It was out of character for her. Chapter 128. What's wrong? Kiran straightened Serena up to look at her face. Kiran, I'm so scared. I'm scared that I'll die, and I'm even more afraid that you'll die. So I've been hesitating to tell you. Serena looked up at Kiran with tearful eyes. Kiran felt like his heartstrings tugged at. His heart ached all of a sudden, but he also became even more confused and worried. Just tell me. Serena took a deep breath to muster up courage before finally looking at him. You can probably tell that I'm not just an ordinary person. I'm enchanting from head to toe, right? Kiran nodded. Yes. That's because I'm part of the Maui tribe. I'm covered in the Maui tribe's black magic from head to toe, but even with my magic, I'm still scared. Serena looked helpless. Why? Kiran asked hurriedly. When your family was wiped out, my master went to rescue them, but she returned home with a serious injury and died of illness not long after. I was a kid when she died, and before she left, she told me to come to Bayville to help the Xander family when I'm all grown up. She also said to wait for your return. Serena was full of sorrow and yearning. The seductive villain was long gone. Kiran's body trembled, and he instinctively hugged Serena tightly. She too had sacrificed for the York family. What else did your master say? Kiran asked. She asked me to go to you in the future to tell you that if you want to avenge your family, you need more than just physical strength. You need economic strength, and you must find all 8 editions of the secret records of Dragon's Mount. Serena sobbed as she spoke. Kiran's heart was racing. The secret records of Dragon's Mount again. What on earth was hidden inside? Kiran, the secret records of Dragon's Mount has been circulating the entire world, so finding all 8 copies is going to be extremely difficult. My master also mentioned that even if you manage to find them all, it won't mean anything if you don't have the power. So, I'm telling you to not rely on force, but to use your head, Serena warned him. At that moment, the Serena in his arms had completely lost her charm. She was like a woman in love, caring for her loved one. Does your master know who the enemy is? Kiran asked. She didn't say, but I know that her black magic was very powerful, and she could kill someone without leaving a trace. Yet, not only did she come back badly injured, but she lost her magic, which means their power and strength are beyond our imagination, Serena said, scared and nervous. She leaned in closer to Kiran's chest while she spoke. Kiran had been training on the mountain for the past few years, so he was knowledgeable in all aspects. Black magic was cultivated from the essence of life, and it shared the same fate as the host. If the person is alive, the magic will still exist. If the person dies, so will the magic. Vice versa, if the magic dies, so will the host. Being able to escape back to the Maui tribe to explain to Serena even after her magic had been destroyed was enough to show that Serena's master was extremely powerful. Kiran's heart palpitated when he realized the strength of his enemy, that someone as powerful as Serena's master died in the hands of the opponent. At that moment, Kiran understood why Harold did not want to tell him. They were too powerful. If he stirred up the hornet's nest, he might be doomed before he could get revenge. Harold was looking out for him. Looking back at all these years, his master would always accompany him or protect him behind closed doors when he was training. He was always extra cautious about his safety. Kiran, don't be afraid and don't overthink it. If they haven't persecuted the Xaviers, that means that they're hesitating. There's something that's stopping them, which is why they haven't wiped them out entirely. Chapter 129. Serena paused for a moment before continuing. Now that you're back to get revenge, the balance is broken. I'm afraid that more people will get caught up in it, which will make the situation worse. In that case, we won't have much control over the situation. Kiran's gaze was sharp and cold. No matter how powerful the opponent is, they can't put a stop to my vengeance. I must avenge my family. Serena nodded. I wish that you can too, but I think that it's best that you go about it slow and steady. In 3 months, it will be 20 years since the York family was exterminated, so I believe that many powerful people have that day marked in their calendars after you appeared. Something might happen on that day, so in the next 3 months you better make progress. Not just physically, but financially as well. Why financially? Kiran asked doubtfully. When the York family was destroyed, the explanation they gave was that their company went bankrupt. If you think about it, why did it not bother them that so many people died? Isn't it strange that their explanation was economic warfare? Serena looked at Kiran and asked. Kiran remained silent. They did indeed use financial reasons to cover up the violence. The Xander Corporation might seem like a nail in the coffin, but it's actually a platform for you to grow. Once you develop Xander Corporation, you can use it as a cover to get your revenge. It won't matter how many people you kill, Serena suggested with a determined look. Kiran looked at the woman in front of him. She used to joke and constantly flirt with him, but in the face of the enemy, she was merciless. That isn't all you wanted to tell me here, is it? Theft. Serena suddenly laughed. My man is so smart. Kiran shut his eyes resignedly. Stop with the nonsense. What do you mean nonsense? Was that nonsense? Am I not being sensible? Serena wanted to seduce him again. If you don't tell me, I'm leaving. Kiran turned to leave. Wait. I called you here tonight because I wanted to put a tracking spell on the 7th floor. We'll know if anyone comes up here to steal or search for the secret records of Dragon's Mount, because their scent will linger. That'll save us a lot of time, said Serena. Kiran's eyes lit up. Serena's method was like no other, as she used the specialty of the Maui tribe. That's great, but I have a problem. Serena looked at Kiran with a hint of embarrassment. What problem? The tracking spell can only last 3 days. If nothing is discovered in 3 days, it'll disappear, but we can't monitor it all the time, don't you think? Serena asked. There's an easy fix. I can use time powder with your tracking spell so that the scent would still be there even after the spell is gone. Then, we can still be able to find it. Snap! Serena snapped her fingers. I've told you that we're the perfect match. It's true. Kiran was afraid that Serena would go haywire again, so he quickly took out the time powder. I'll spread it in the air, and you'll cast the tracking spell. Then, we'll leave. Okay. Serena took out a bag of white powder. They exchanged glances and traced back their steps to the entrance before releasing the powder in their hands at the same time. Serena threw her delicate self onto Kiran, and he hugged her before they walked out the door and down the stairs. When they got downstairs, they breathed a sigh of relief, but as they were about to leave, they saw a ghost-like figure in black enter Schuyler Library. Chapter 130. The Healing Elder? Kiran blurted out when he saw the shadow. You know the Healing Prince? Serena asked, leaning against Kiran's chest. The Healing Prince? Is that his real name? Kiran asked. It's his nickname. Have you guys met before? Serena asked hurriedly. He killed Zenith's son, Barry. Kiran recounted what happened at the hospital. How brave of him to ask the Healing Prince to treat him. He must be out of his mind. Serena pursed her lips in disdain. Should we go up? Kiran asked. No. It's easy to find that old guy. Plus, we're the hunters, so we'll let them find the secret records of Dragon's Mount themselves, Serena said indifferently. Kiran was not going to follow the Healing Prince anyway. He was just testing Serena's skill and wisdom. As he expected, it seemed like she excelled in both. Come down. Let's go. Kiran let go of Serena. However, Serena was stuck to him like glue. Instead of letting go, she leaned even closer. I think my body is too weak. Hold me! Kiran was about to ask her if she wanted to be squeezed to death. Then, Serena leaned into Kiran's ear and whispered, Carry me into the car, and I'll tell you about the Healing Prince. In order to get the information, Kiran carried Serena out of the school. Serena smiled gleefully. The students here kiss, hold hands, and flirt, but I bet not many have been carried like me. There's no use teasing me. Kiran stopped her. Serena teased him and smiled. It seems like Kiran can't fight the temptation of my attacks anymore, right? You're mistaken, Smooch. Serena planted a kiss on Kiran's cheek. My first kiss. Kiran knew that anything he said would be in vain, so he simply shut up. Don't be like this. You're making it seem like I bullied you, Serena said flirtatiously. If you could speak and do things like a normal person, maybe I'll consider you to be my backup. Otherwise, I'm not interested. Kiran acted cool on purpose. You promise? Serena's face was full of excitement. Kiran nodded. Of course. Then, let's do normal things. Serena put her arms around his neck and was about to kiss him. Kiran was speechless. How could she misinterpret normal things as having sex? Unbelievable. Don't act like a fool, Kiran yelled angrily and walked quickly to the car. Serena giggled. She swiftly jumped on the ground and turned around enchantingly. The villain twisted her hips around like a snake. She looked stunning. How wonderful. I'm Kiran's backup. Tell me about the Healing Prince. Kiran opened the door and sat in the driver's seat. Obediently, Serena opened the car door and sat in the passenger seat. The Healing Prince is a member of the School of Medicine. It's an ancient school, and they're good at treating diseases and healing patients with medicine. They have a unique skill. It's sort of similar to the magic the Maui people use, but it's more similar to Western medicine. Kiran listened carefully while driving. The Healing Prince was different. He used all of his knowledge to study poison and how to treat complicated diseases, so over time, his medicine turned into poison. In recent years, he's known as the Miracle Doctor in Bayville, but he rarely treats anyone, and he charges a lot. Instead of treating people, he mostly used them to conduct experiments and verify the prescriptions he developed. Some lived for another few years, and some lived for another few months. The important thing was that they were cured after his experiments, and that was all people cared about. His main job is to prepare drugs for Peace Pharmaceuticals, owned by the Quinn family, and help them become an industry leader. Peace Pharmaceuticals is also one of the main competitors of Xander Corporation.